Shalom, everyone. This is Parashat Nitsavim. If you would like to raise your hand or annotate on the screen, here's how you can do it. This is the first verse. Would anyone like to read? If so, put your virtual hand up and I'll call on you. All right, I'll read the first one. Okay, go ahead, Thomas.
אוקיי. אתם ניצבים היום כולכם לפני אדוני אלוהיכם, ראשיכם, שבטיכם, זקניכם ושוטריכם כל איש ישראל.
Excellent. Very good. Atem nitzavim. You all are standing. Hayom. Kullechem, all of you this day, lifnei Adonai Elohechem, before the Lord your God. Rashechem, you might notice that this is from the root rosh, chief, first, top. It says here captains, but it's the ones in charge. Shivtechem, shevet is a tribe, your tribes. Ziknechem, zaken is old, so ziknechem, your elders. Vishotrechem, mishtar in modern Hebrew is police. In biblical times, a shoter is some kind of an officer. Ish Yisrael, every man of Israel. Everyone's standing there as Moses is giving his monologue speech. Jesse, would you like to read the next verse?
Yes. Tapchem, Nishechem, Begercha, Asher, Bekerev, Machanechem, Machanecha, Mechotev, Etzecha, Al Shoev, Ad Shoev, Memecha.
Excellent. Very good. Tapachem, Nishechem. So all of your tapim, little ones, nashim, women or wives. Then it goes and it turns from 2MP chem, belonging to you all, and turns into 2MS, yours, singular. V'gercha asher bekerev machanecha mechotev etzecha ad shoev memecha. So it's interesting to see how it goes from 2MP both in the previous verse and the first half of this verse. Then it switches over to singular. Does it have something to do with like each and every one of you who has a ger? What does that even mean? A ger?
A stranger, like a foreigner.
Yeah, remember Abraham was called a ger in the land. Israel was called a ger in Egypt. It means that you are in a land not originally your own, and you're there to stay. So this is going to be someone who seems to be joining into the nation of Israel as a ger, who was a foreigner, and now he's here to stay. But then, okay, so then we got a little extra information about the ger. Asher bekerev machanecha. So this isn't just any ger, it's the one that is in the midst of your camp, meaning he's moved into your camp. He's part of your community now. He didn't just go live over there by the rock, the crag, the tree. He's not really part of our community. He just lives in our land. No, talking about the ger that is in your camp, that lives among you.
Question. Asher. The word asher
Yes, it's the word asher. That's can you formulate a question?
Yeah, what is that word?
Oh, this word asher is usually it's a relative particle, and what that means in syntax is that it's telling us more information about what just came. So if I go to the bookstore, that is on the corner of Elm. That is on the corner of Elm tells me extra information about the bookstore. So this would be the word that or the relative particle. Oops. Um, that tells me more about the ger. So it's kind of like a giant adjective, except it's a complete sentence or a complete thought.
So the
Here's
word cannot stand alone.
correct. The word asher cannot stand alone as a relative particle. It has to connect two things, the previous noun to the following complete thought. Yes. There are some words that can stand alone that look similar. For example, osher. For example, osher is happiness.
Yes, yes, yes.
Let's see. I know there's also ashrei, like happy or fortunate or blessed is the one who, but both of those are coming from a different root. The root of this word right here is coming from what's called sheen 2 instead of sheen 1.
Ah,
Sheen was originally 3 different letters, and in Aramaic it is atar with a tav, because this sheen was pronounced more like a th or a
mhm.
sound, which in Aramaic turned into a tav, which is like a th sound. So 2 different letters, 2 different roots. Osher is happiness, and asher is literally a place or location, which then turned into the relative particle in Hebrew.
Mhm.
All right, and then we've got mechotev etzecha ad shoev memecha. Now, what is this meh in front?
From
From. And then what is ad?
us too.
Yeah, so it's like from all the way from this, all the way to that. And what is a chotev etzim? Well, it appears to be the chopper of your
Wood.
trees, wood, exactly. So you have someone chopping your wood. Ad shoev memecha. What is shoev? Well, it's pumping or draw. In modern Hebrew, it can mean pumping, but originally it means to draw water. What is it? Mashev, mashav. I forget what the word for pump is. I think it's mashav. And then memecha. Now, this is an interesting form. It's translated as your water. So we see the cha, which is yours. How do we account for all of this? Usually, when there's a yod before the kaf, what does that yod mean?
Plural.
Yeah, exactly. So if this is a plural yod, then that means this is our root, isn't it?
Mem is the root.
The root seems to originally be mem yod mem, which is kind of funny. Which is kind of funny because we think of the word as being mayim in the dual, therefore plural, right?
Yeah.
Which I get it. In the Bible, the word mayim is treated like a plural. But has anyone ever noticed how it has the exact same pattern as a word like bayit?
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if the word originally had root letters mem, yod, mem, and therefore it's a singular, mayim, but because it has this ayim at the end, it was incorrectly thought of as a plural. And then the error just continued after that. Because here, memecha, well, the only way we can account for this is if that's your first, second, and third root letters. So it used to be singular and turned into a plural by mistake. That's okay. Shemayim is always a plural. Panim is always a plural. And there are plenty of words in Hebrew that are always plural. Okay, so is it the ger that's being called The one who chops your wood and the one that draws your water?
Are those participles?
Yes.
The chopper and the drawer?
Yes, they are. They have an O-E vowel pattern, which tells us that they are kal participles. And so that tells us it's a kal binyan, one who is doing the action of chopping. So we can call that a chopper in English, and that's fine. The chopper of your wood and the drawer of your water. Both this and that have the O-E pattern. They're participles. Okay, so is it the ger that's doing this?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay. I mean, it kind of, I don't know. It kind of, I'm not sure, like we had children, wives, ger, which ger? Asher bekerev machanecha. And then the question is this continuing the thought of the ger, or is it talking about all of the labor force? I don't know. Because see, there's an eknachta right there, which tells us we've reached the halfway point of the verse. And that means this is all up here kind of a complete thought. And then down here is a complete thought. What if they're separate? Were all of the gerim slave labor, forced labor, servitude labor? Is that the way the gerim always worked?
Yes.
What evidence is there for that?
Well, what about the fact that the stranger comes so immersed in the congregation that they participate equally in all the chores?
There are a lot of how do I say that? There are a lot of commandments that the ger is told to participate in. Like, as long as he's had the circumcision, he can go to Passover. He's told to rejoice during Sukkot. There are, he's basically supposed to keep the same law as the Israelites that he's among, with very few exceptions. Like, for example, a ger can't be a king of Israel. A ger can take something that has died on its own as a gift and eat it, whereas an Israelite cannot.
He cannot eat the Passover.
If he is circumcised, he can eat the Passover.
Well, he's no longer a ger if he's circumcised.
Very good. If he gets circumcised, I guess he's part of he's a convert, as it were.
I'd like to make an observation. I believe to tie in the Mayim, the Mei, the Mayim is actually coming from Genesis chapter 2. The three rivers are actually spiritual rivers, and it's from the dwelling of Shechar. It's moving to Karan, and then from Karan to the Gar, and flowing to the wives then, which is referenced as Kerev. So it's moving from Karan to Kerev, from Shachar to Karan to Kerev, as a spiritual river into the camp, from the Gar to the wives, then the little ones.
How does that tie into this?
Because it's coming, that is the water, that water, that Mei, that Mayim, is coming, it's a spiritual river.
Okay.
Passing into the camp.
All right, cool. All right, who wants to read next?
Well,
Let's see. Christine, you got your hand up. Oh, Jesse, did you read the last one?
I did.
Oh, okay. Christine, go ahead.
the Raha, beef. No, what I do? Leov.
Kamazkatan. Just when you least expect it, right?
Snuck in there on me.
You have two shmas here, so you know
Yeah.
the syllable divides, which means you have
Yeah.
a closed, unstressed syllable. There it is.
All
right. We'll go ahead and start over.
All right. Leov Recha, Bivrit, Adonai, Elohecha, Uv al Lato. Is that right?
Uvalato.
Uvalato.
Yeah, the this is a long vowel, so that's audible schwa.
Okay.
Uva'alato. Uva'alato.
Uva'alato. Asher Adonai Elohecha Koret Imcha Hayom.
Excellent. לעוברך בברית אדוני אלוהיך ובעלתו אשר אדוני אלוהיך כורת עמך היום. All right, so here's our asher phrase. What is it referring us back to? Right? It's a relative particle, so it means it's connecting two things. It's connecting this complete thought with
The covenant.
the covenant. Okay, let's see. Asher, right. I guess it could be
Because that's what you cut, a covenant.
It's the
that's
oath.
what you cut.
Do you cut an oath as well?
Well, you have a great point, Cheryl. When we talk about making a covenant, the Bible usually uses the word karat, to cut a covenant. That's an
Yes, yes.
excellent point. Now, I would still say that this is probably in some way parallel to this. But yeah, I've never heard of cutting an oath, but I have definitely heard of cutting a covenant. Let's see. Uva. So, well, okay, look, we have the I'm going to go with your answer, Cheryl. I don't know. I think that your answer is the best. Usually the asher comes right after the thing that it's going to tell us more about. However, we already have a construct chain here. Brit Adonai, well, I guess it would be Brit Adonai and then apposition, making these two equal. So the covenant of the Lord, who the Lord? That is your God. Oh, by the way, and his oath. So I don't know. I guess this is just kind of thrown in there as an extra. The fact that this is a kamatz katan, what does that tell you about what kind of word you're looking at? This first word here, le'ovrecha.
It's a noun.
Participle.
Yeah.
Not participle, not
No.
participle.
Preposition.
I will take the
Who?
answer noun.
Nee.
It's a noun.
So what?
You're
I
entering.
think it's a verb.
Okay, thank you for saying that. So, is it a verb or is it a noun? Well, it does have a cha on the end. It does have a preposition on the front of it. Nouns are typically the ones that have prepositions in the front, right? A preposition is talking about the position between a noun and something else, like the fox is on the box. We wouldn't say the fox is on fishing. Okay, there has to be some kind of a think of a better. The noun is on the fox is on walk. Okay, there has to be some kind of noun after it. So, what verbal form acts like a noun?
Participle.
No, that acts like an
It's an
adjective.
infinitive.
Infinitive.
Infinitive. Okay, so
Infinitives.
the infinitive verbs are the ones that act like nouns. I like to study. Okay, technically to study is an infinitive. What do I like? What's the thing that I like? To study. It's acting like a noun. Here also in Hebrew, this is acting like a noun. There's a preposition in front of it and possession, belonging at the end of it. So the O of the kamatz katan is coming from, let's see, what would the infinitive construct look like by itself without the prefix and suffix?
Avor.
What would
La avor.
Good.
Well,
Avor.
a
Avor. So it should have a shva here, but it's an ayin. So it takes a reduced patach instead. But the point is there's an O sound here. And if we wanted to add a lamed at the front, la'avor, to cross over. There are plenty more, like lishmor is an infinitive construct. It should look like this. We can add l to the beginning, lishmor. Then when you add a suffix to it, we run into a problem. Okay, let's take lishmor. It's relatively normal. Shmor. All right, no problem, right? Now we're going to add a cha to the end.
Mm.
Uh-oh. Well, we had a stress on this holam. Now we don't. What happens to a long vowel in a closed syllable? Has to become shorter.
Mm.
Let's see. It's shmorecha. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Shmora, shmara, shmo.
Umricha.
Well, what I'm trying to avoid is this right here. Let's see. The original shmorecha. Yeah, I'm not doing a good job of explaining it right now, but basically it's because of this O sound. Ah, right. The O drops to a schwa, of course. The long vowel drops to a schwa, which then leaves you with two schwas. You can't have that. The first one is influenced by the O vowel. Now we have shom. There it is. Shom recha. Anyway, because of this O, it affects that O. It's very frustrating why Hebrew did this, but it did. Here we are. Nothing we can change about it now. So when you see that kamatz katan at the front, it's a good chance that it's an infinitive. All right. Any comments or questions about this before we move on to the next verse? Nice long verse.
You said you'd never heard of a cutting of an oath, but isn't that what Abimelech and Abraham did when he gave them the 7U?
Well, that was nishba. They used a different root there.
Okay.
In fact, it was a play on words because he swore an oath. Nishba, shvu'ah, or shvu'ah, like this. I believe that's how it's called in the story of Abimelech. No, is it? No, it's not Abimelech. It's Isaac. It's Isaac and Abimelech. No,
Isaac and Abraham
Pichol, the
are
general,
Beersheba.
Abraham.
the king of Gerar, wasn't it?
Yeah.
With
Well,
Fichol, his commander.
yeah, the king that was from the Philistines that came over.
Right, from the Philistines. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
the point is that their nishba shvu'ah is used because it's a play on words. What is the meaning of these 7 U's? Sheva, 7, to represent nishba, swearing an oath. Here, the word oath is shvu'ah instead of Allah. So
Wow.
no, it didn't use cutting in Allah. I'm not even sure if the word Allah shows up there.
I thank you y'all all for the invite. I've got to go contact my brother now.
right.
But
Have a
much
good
for
one.
you.
Thanks for dropping
Shalom.
in. See you. Bye. Okay, next reader. Nice long verse. Who wants a nice long verse?
I can do.
Well, hang on. Eileen,
yeah,
you have your hand up. Do you want to read this? You want to read this monster?
Yes,
All right.
I accept the challenge.
You accept the challenge. There's a short one on the next one. Do you want it?
Okay,
Otherwise, you got this monster. Go ahead.
either one, I'd do it.
All right. Go ahead. Lema'an.
Leman Haka Eshman
Hakim.
Hakim Atha
Otcha.
Ota He O
Hayom.
Hayom
That's
Hayom
right.
Le U
Lo.
Lo Le Otam
Lam.
Laam Vah He U
Vehu.
Vehu Vehi Vehi
Yihye.
Oh Yihye Leha Le 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 Al Haim
Well, there's no vowel attached to the aleph. It has quiesced, so don't even pronounce it. Lelohim.
Lelohi.
Good.
Ka ka ishar.
Ka'asher.
Oh,
Ka'asher.
kasher. Kasher. Levar.
Diber.
Oh, diber. Diber. Oh yeah. Words. Diber.
She said words.
Anyways. La
Lach.
ka
Lach.
lach.
Yep.
Ba ka share.
V'cha'asher.
Share. Ne shaber. Oh,
See, Michael just left, and this was on the very next verse. Nishba. All right, Nishba.
nishbara. Le
La'a.
la beot ha
La'avotecha.
botehna la boteja. Le Abraham. Le Yitzhak. Ve Yaakov.
Uleyaakov.
Yaakov.
The three patriarchs.
Wonderful.
Lema'an. Yeah, good job. Lema'an Hakim Otcha. And if anybody finds it helpful, I'll split it up into syllables. Hakim Otcha. Hayom Lo
No.
La'am Vehu Yihye Lach Lelohim Kaasher Diber Lach וכאשר נשבע לאבותיך, לאברהם, oops, I covered over the hay a little, ליצחק, וליעקב. Okay, this is how I would split up the syllables. You all know how I do it, most of you. If anybody has a question about it, by all means, please ask. The way I split up syllables will put silent schvas at the end of a syllable, and we'll put audible schvas at the beginning of a syllable, like this one. Or this one. Okay. Let's start easy before we jump right into the hard stuff. How do you break this word up into pieces?
Diagonal.
You have the
Diagonal.
ha,
Right.
and the
Right.
yum.
Exactly. So what is ha?
It's a
The definite
Definite
article.
article, yeah.
Good. Good. Exactly. It's the. It's a definite article.
The
Right. And then yom is a day. So the day is the way that Hebrew says, like, today, this day. And why is there a dagesh in the yod?
It's a
Definite
doubling dagesh.
Mm-hmm.
Strong dagesh.
It is, but why is it there? Why do we need it?
Definite article.
Right. Okay. So the definite article is supposed to have a strong dagesh after it. And will it always have a strong dagesh after it?
No.
When will it not have?
Gutturals.
Right. So if
It's
we
the
want to
guttural.
say, for example, like Av, a father, how do we say the father? Well, we put a hey, a patach, and a big fat dagesh into the aleph, right?
No.
No.
No, with comments.
Very good. So
Or
you have to
not.
lengthen the preceding vowel to compensate for not being able to lengthen, that is, double the consonant. Now Av should probably be with a kamatz. My apologies if I have it wrong.
Double, yes.
But
yes.
right, very good.
Yes.
What if you have a word like mountain, har.
Ha.
Then how do you make it the
Hey.
mountain? Well, you put your hey, you put your
Ha-ha-ding.
patach, you put your dagesh.
No dagesh.
Oh, dagesh.
Ha.
So I'm going to lengthen the preceding vowel.
Nope.
Well, no.
No.
Why not?
Because hay's strong enough.
Okay, so hey and chet are both gutturals that you can pronounce for a longer period of time. Watch. I'll do chet as well. Watch this. You can pronounce it for a long time. So what happens is something called virtual doubling, or at least that's what the grammarians call it. So rather than explicitly doubling the hey, it's called virtual doubling, and you basically leave a patach with no dagesh. Okay, whatever. So the takeaway is that hey and chet are going to take a patach, definite article, but still no dagesh, whereas Aleph, Ain, and Resh are going to get that compensatory lengthening, right? Ha. Okay, fine. Okay, that's the easy stuff. Now let's get a little bit harder. What is the root of this?
Kim or kum.
Kum, lakum, kum,
Kum,
Okay,
Kuf,
so kuf
yod.
vav,
kuf, yod,
Yes,
mem.
yes.
kuf vav mem. So what's the yod doing here?
It's hif ear.
Feel?
And yes. No.
Waitress, this isn't what I ordered. I wanted a vav and there's a yod. He feel.
It's
Exactly.
yes.
He feel. So it's because it's in the binyan hifil that we have a hey at the beginning and an e yod sound there. So there's your hey of hifil, and there's your
Yes.
e yod of hifil. So why didn't we stick
The
the
first-
why didn't we stick a vav in there? Why did the vav go missing?
They do that.
That's the original
They do
vav,
that.
but you can use because the hif ear.
Watch.
It's a
apocryphated?
long vowel. It's a mate lectiones.
Here, let's stick the vav in there for just a second. Let's try and pronounce it, and let's all feel very, very, very silly. Okay.
Havayakum.
Remember that the vav originally had a W sound. So how do you pronounce this?
Akwim.
Haquim. Haquim.
Imwek.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. It sounds like a Wimlek or something. Okay. So the point is that we have something of a diphthong here. Ooh-wee, ooh-wee. That Hebrew simplified down. It's harder to say haquim and much easier to say hakim.
Yeah.
So the vav got lost. That semi-consonant or pseudo vowel, whatever you want to call it, got lost. And that's how almost all of your hollow roots that have a vav or yod in the middle, that's how almost all of them behave. How about the vav that should have occurred right here? Where is it?
In
Mm.
Olam.
It got turned into a vowel. Well, at least there's some remnant of the vav, but the vav itself is no longer there. And let's see any others here. Well, that's a little bit different story. The yod here was originally a vav that later turned into a yod. Why exactly? Maybe because they didn't want to look like God's name. Yod hey, vav hey. So they turned into yod hey, yod hey. All right, now what's going on with this? When can a dagesh and a lamed, that is a strong dagesh, start a word? We've talked about it before. Does anyone remember? We have a strong dagesh at the beginning of lecha. Why?
That line before it from Yehye.
The makef or makaf?
Yeah.
Huh? Kind of. But isn't a strong dagesh a grammatical doubling of a letter? Usually says something got lost. What got lost? Is anything missing over here? Yes, a yod. Remember I said the root of this verb originally had a vav there, but what I never mentioned is that its third root letter missing altogether was a yod.
Tzionus.
So, right. So, for example, if I wanted to say, no, let's say you were speaking to a man, okay, or to a woman, doesn't really matter. And it would be spelled hayita. And if I were saying it to a woman, it would be hayi. Wait, why do I have two yods here? Because your root is hey yod yod, or originally hey vav yod, but it turned into a yod. Enough of that. How do I know that it was an original vav? Why do I keep saying that? Well, because 5 times in the Bible it's spelled with a vav, like this, or written. Hang on. There's another one, te ve. I think it's like this. And also in Aramaic, the vav is retained. So probably had an original vav, and that's why God's name still has a vav in it, right there. It's more original. Okay, so we have a missing yod. This should have been hey yod yod, but the yod assimilated into here. And then to represent that vowel, they added the letter hey later on. This hey came later on. Mater Lectionis letters weren't invented until the time of Solomon. This is Moses. So somebody inserted a hey in here to represent that vowel before it was actually ever written in there. And nishba. What binyan does this verb belong to?
Nifal.
Of course. Exactly. Let the donkey remind you of a nifal verb. Almost all nifal verbs have an sounding pattern. And especially with that noon there, it's unmistakable. It's a nifal. And what does a nifal verb usually say about a verb? What does nifal equate to? What nuance does it have?
Passive.
Usually passive.
Passive.
Anything else?
Can be
Reciprocal.
Reciprocal.
Okay, that's a fancy word. What does that mean?
Has to have, but it's like cause and effect. Or
Back and
about-
forth.
Back and forth.
How about you can't do it without at least 2 people?
yes.
Yes.
Wait
You
a
need
second.
2 people
That's,
to play the tank.
Okay, reciprocal. And what else could there be? What if you're doing it to yourself? What's that called?
Reflexive.
Reflexive.
Reflexive. Good. So reflexive says you're doing it to yourself, like I bathe myself, I wash myself, I comb or I shave myself. If I'm doing it to myself, I'm both the doer and the receiver of the action. That's reflexive. Reciprocal is kind of the same thing, except there has to be 2 people. So we're doing it to each other, like giving a hug. Can I give you a hug without you hugging me back? Well, I mean, I guess technically you could stand there like a post and I could give you a hug, but usually one embrace, there are 2 embraces happening at the same time. How about getting married? Can only one person get married? No, there has to be kind of 2 to tango, right?
Yep.
So that's reciprocal. What if we're writing back and forth like pen pals? Well, that's also reciprocal. We're both doing an action to each other. We're both the doers and the receivers at the same time. That's reciprocal. So Nifal actually started out as this over here and not as this over here. Originally, there was another binyan, not any of the 7 that we've studied, that was the passive of the Kal binyan. As it fell out of use, Nifal took over. Now Nifal has 2 jobs. Its original job with some verbs and its passive, simple action passive as the other job.
So is that also a second person imperative?
What about second person imperative? I didn't understand your question.
Would that apply as second person imperative?
All imperatives are second person, but are you, what apply?
The example before us. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
There are imperatives in Nephal verbs, but there are imperatives in every verb. I'm sorry, I just don't understand. Does anyone understand
okay.
Tim's
That's okay.
question?
Maybe Tim doesn't understand Tim's question.
Well, all right, let's see. Nishba. So he has sworn. Does this seem like more of a passive or reflexive reciprocal? I mean, which one does it? He has sworn.
Reciprocal.
Yeah.
Really? Reciprocal? One doing it one to another?
Reflexive.
I
Yes,
think it's more
when,
reflexive
yeah.
than reciprocal.
Mhm.
I'm not sure which one it is. There's something to be said about how our mother tongue, our languages would take the idea of like swearing an oath and think of it in a different way than maybe the Hebrew would. Okay. Nishba. What is the root of nishba? What does it mean?
Shava, 7 or swearing.
Hearing?
Shava is the word for swearing or oath.
That's right.
For 7.
Good. It's also
Yes,
for 7. But what is I guess I'm asking, what is the root meaning, like the simple root meaning of Shin Bet Ayin?
7.
I think 7 probably came later on.
7.
So you think about almost all the numbers. In fact, as I can think of it, all the numbers were taken from something else. For
Completion.
example, Hamush. What is Hamush? Does anyone know?
5.
Chamesh is 5. Chamush.
Armed. Hamush means armed? Yes, it does. So it doesn't mean 5 here, but apparently this root pre-existed numbers and it was borrowed into the numbering system when numbers were invented because of the pattern for there to be 4. Well, how do you say this? A group of 5 where one is the leader and the other 4 are kind of the ones obeying whoever the leader is. So apparently in the ancient Near East, you get these, call them special ops teams or whatever, that are in groups of 5. And that's where the number 5 comes from, because that's how these armed bands would operate. Huh. Okay. What about Shnayim, the number 2? Where does it come from?
Teeth?
Sheen. Okay, so Shen, I thought comes from Shin Yod Nun, not Shin Nun Yod. So I don't think it's teeth. Anything else you can think of? Shin Nun Yod or Shin Nun Hey?
Shin is year.
Shana.
The
year have to do with 2 parts.
Yeah,
like Shana Tova, exactly. So what does a year have to do with the number 2?
It's the following year.
Well, okay, so a year is split into 2 agricultural parts. There's the agricultural cycle in the fall, and then agricultural cycle in the spring, if you will. Or you could think of it more as the dry season and the wet season. Okay, there are 2 parts, and it has something to do with how Israel's calendar today has 2 New Years, one that's biblical and one that's civil. And the point is that Shana comes from the same number as 2. Interesting. I'm trying to think of some other ones. Shalish, Shava. So apparently the number Tesha has something to do
9.
with lacking. Almost there, but you missed the mark, right? Why would that be? Because 10 is a complete number. 9 is just a little shy. So what is about the number 7? Well, 7 has to do with completing something. And so Nishba is talking about completing something that you swore. Like I said, I'll do it, and I am promising that I'm going to complete it. I'm going to do it. Okay. Well, that doesn't really answer all of our questions, but it offers a little bit of clarity, I hope.
Sure does.
Avotenu, Lavraham, Litzchak, Yaakov. I think we're good. Any questions? Who's
No.
next reader? Jesse, Cheryl, have you read yet?
Not yet.
Cheryl, go ahead.
Okay. ולא איתכם לדרכם לבדכם, לבדכם, אוקיי. ולא איתכם לבדכם, אנוכי כורת את הברית הזאת ואת העלה הזאת.
I absolutely loved hearing you read that word.
Why?
Because of your rolling R, it's fantastic.
What? That took a lot of work.
Yeah. Why did you choose? I absolutely love it, but why did you choose the rolling R instead of working on like the modern Israeli?
Because I worked with Israelis and I just was so jealous that they could do that. And I thought I could imitate anything. I thought I could imitate anything, but not that. And it took a French teacher from Canada to tell me I could do it. He said, I just don't believe you can't do it. Just keep working at it. And I had a baby at that time, a little guy,
Yeah.
and he would laugh at me trying. And I just kept going. And one day it came out. was
Okay.
forced, though.
So it's the all right, here's the thing. There are still plenty of Israelis that pronounce resh with a rolling R. And the vast majority of Israelis, however, have been influenced by French and German. So the resh of French and German is kind of annoying because it's somewhere between an R sound and a like a GH sound. Okay? Resh, resh. If you get your uvula to bounce up and down a little bit, it helps. Resh. But yeah, something like no, it's not exactly. Try to avoid the G sound itself, but rather make it a breathy G. Resh. Now
it's almost like I wish somebody had said this to me from the beginning, was when you go, just add voice to it. Just add
that's it.
a
Exactly.
voice to it, and it's there.
Right. Okay,
It's
so
like a
here's the
verb
thing.
of kid-
Now that we have this GH kind of clarified, it's not original. It's not original. What can I say? The rolling R, which I'll represent with like a two R's, like in Spanish, is probably more original. It's what we still see in Arabic today, or here in Arabic today. And this GH sound, actually, there was another letter that had this GH sound, and it was Ayin. Now, Ayin had represented two original consonantal sounds. So I'll call it Ayin 1 and Ayin 2. Ayin 1 has that like using your cough muscles, tensing your throat, and getting that guttural Ayin out of the middle of your throat. So we'll call that, well, I guess they use this symbol. Let me see if I can fix it. Make it this symbol right here is what they use in linguistics to represent that ayin sound. And sometimes they'll put a little foot on the bottom. But over here, ayin represented a different ayin sound. I've mentioned it before, but I'll go ahead and mention it again. Why is it that we call this? Let's read this first. What is this? Right. Azza. Azza. But when we transliterate it from Greek, it becomes Gaza. Why? Because this is Ayin 2.
And
Also, you'll notice there are certain places in the Bible where Ayin will take a shva. Ayin doesn't usually take a shva. It will take some sort of a reduced vowel like this, like la'avor, like we saw earlier, right? La'avor. So that tells me this is Ayin 1. But if you ever see a shva on it, I can't say it that way. I can't say it that way. If you see an ayin with a shva where it should ordinarily take a a reduced vowel. That's the way I can say it. Then you're probably looking at an ein too.
And
Um,
mine too is the
Ein two is the r instead of the r.
mine one is the
Oh.
Kermit the
Oh.
Frog.
Yeah, Kermit the Frog here. Yes. So anyway, that was fun. How did we get on such a tangent? I'm not sure.
Great.
Ah, it's because of the resh, the way that you pronounce your resh. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Velo itchem, audible shva, strong dagesh. Velo itchem levadchem, also strong dagesh shva. Anochi koret et habrit, or habrit, hazot, ve'et ha'ala hazot. I had a I had somebody in my congregation talk about how this is the no, it's not. It's a different word. Never mind. That's a tangent that I don't want to get on. Why is there a strong dagesh here? Can we kind of analyze and break this word down a little bit? Is there anything at the prefix or suffix level that we can slice away from it?
Is it something to do with the
The lamed,
Is it doubled?
lamed, and the
Assimilation.
dalet is doubled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the question is why the dalet is doubled. Can we slice away the chem belonging to you all?
Yep.
Affix.
Having to do with you all? All right. So then what's the root?
La badad. Badad.
Badad.
Bad.
Badad, exactly. Or boded or something like that. Yeah. So the word boded means to be alone.
Aha.
So levad means to aloneness, which we translate as only. Levadchem would be only or except for no levad only you all, I guess is velo itchem levadchem, and not with you all, only you all. Anochi koret et habrit, that I am making or cutting this covenant. Hazot, this one. Ve'et ha'ala hazot, and this oath. What? Not only with you all, then with whom? And that should be the next verse. Who's going to read it? Jesse, I think you're up.
Okay. כי את אשר ישנו פה עמנו עומד היום לפני אדוני אלוהינו, ואת אשר איננו פה עמנו היום.
כי את אשר ישנו פה עמנו, or עמנו, עומד היום לפני אדוני אלוהינו, ואת אשר איננו פה עמנו היום. Okay, this is getting kind of difficult to track the who's who of what's going on here. Moses says, I'm not, this covenant is not, excuse me, Moses is saying that the Lord says, I am making this covenant not just with you all, not only the ones that are, yesh, that are here with us today standing before the Lord your God, and the one that is not, einenu, here standing with us this day. Who's he referring to? Or to whom is he referring? Who's not there today that he's making the covenant with? With whom he's making the covenant. I'm sorry, there's this thing that you're not supposed to put a preposition at the end of a sentence. So anyway, whenever I do that, I kind of correct myself. My apologies. With whom is this covenant? With what people is this covenant being made that are not there present at that day?
With us.
with us.
With all of Israel. Okay. Whether that's the descendants that aren't there today, or the Ger that joins in to become part of Israel. Who else?
Those that maybe want to come in and convert and be baptized. Future stuff, future people.
Future stuff, future people. Okay. All right. Well, I put the bait out there and nobody bit. I was waiting for somebody to say the church, of course.
The who?
The church. The church.
Yeah, that's 3,000 years ahead of time.
So is that like the Goyim?
The spiritual
Yeah.
Israel, the Israel of God.
Yeah. Nations.
Well, I'm not sure I can agree with somebody who says that this covenant is with all the nations, because the Torah explicitly says that it's not with all the nations, it's with you, Israel. In fact, I would argue that throughout the Bible, this covenant that God makes is always with one nation, Israel.
Mhm.
So the question kind of becomes, are you Israel or are you not Israel? Are you part of it?
grafted in?
Okay, there we go. Okay, so in that sense, we can say,
That Goyim.
okay, so the ones that have, so who was it earlier that said, hey, if you're going to get circumcised, you're now part of the, you're no longer just a ger, you're now part of the tribe, you're now part of Israel. Well, isn't that the argument that Paul makes when he goes on and talking about circumcision? He's like, well, wait a second. If somebody gets circumcised, but they don't actually perform the covenant obligations, isn't that worse than somebody who's not circumcised, but does perform the covenant obligations?
Well,
Your actions speak way louder than your sign of circumcision does.
Yeah, well, Paul is all about you don't have to be circumcised to be a part of the covenant.
Is that why he circumcised Timothy? Is that why he himself was circumcised? I mean, it's certainly there is a commandment in the Bible to be circumcised, both from Abraham and from law of Moses. So we can't just shirk it and say, well, we're not going to do that because we don't really want to. Well, why do we get to pick and choose what commandments of God to follow? So why is he talking about how you don't need to be circumcised to be saved? Because no one was ever saved by circumcision. Salvation has nothing to do with what you've accomplished. It has to do with your loyalty to God, being faithful and believing in God. That's how Abraham was saved. And he goes on and on about how Abraham is the perfect example of faithfulness. And he was called faithful. He was called righteous before he ever got circumcised. So does one need to follow that circumcision and become part of Israel before they can be saved? No, apparently not. But once you are loyal to God, what does that mean about your lifestyle? It means that everything you do seeks to glorify God. If I love my father, it means I do things that he wants me to do, and things that glorify him and honor him as as my earthly father. How much more would I do it with my heavenly father? So maybe this is referring to anyone later on who would be grafted in or join Israel. Are there Israelites, or excuse me, are there Israelis that are not biblical Israel?
Yes.
That's a tough question to answer, but I think that both Paul and the prophets answer it. And they say, listen, God always preserves a remnant, but there are plenty of times when Israel gets trimmed back quite a bit by the surrounding nations that God uses to bring judgment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really difficult to talk about who's Israel and who's not, because there's also a future aspect to it. Suppose Ploni, some guy in Israel, doesn't believe in like New Testament stuff, but he's faithful to God. Is he Israel? What if Messiah comes and he goes, "Oh, that's Messiah. I believe in God's Messiah." Now all of a sudden, is he Israel? These are questions that are big, that are higher than our pay grade, right?
What verse is this?
What verse is this? This is
29:14.
20. Thank you. Say it again.
29. Wait a minute. 29:15.
29:15. I intentionally don't put the verse numbers on there, and I'm sorry about that. Sometimes the English Bible and Hebrew Bible have different numbers, and I also think that the numbers also detract from focusing on the words themselves. So my apologies for that. Thank you for.
14. This is 14.
Uh-oh, do we have a difference in versification numbers?
Oh, wait, no. Yeah,
All right.
Can I make
it's
I
14.
have a question.
Tim, you have a question.
Yes, on Omed, there appears to be a caricatif with stands us, him stands us. So the him is added. Could this actually be referring? Does the grammar support that this could be a singular individual prophesied in 1815, the prophesied Messiah who would come, who would bring the balance of these? Does the grammar support that?
Well, yes and no. In the preceding verses, we saw how if we're referring to you singular, how the cha shows up with like your father singular, your ger singular, who has said to you singular. So there are places where there's a singular you, and then when we fast forward over to here, yes, this is singular, but Moses has been speaking to some degree to each and every one of us in the singular. Could we take it midrashically to point forward to some special individual? Yeah, that would be midrashic. So that wouldn't be plain sense of the text. That would have to be some sort of deeper meaning of the text, some sort of either drash or sod interpretation. Yeah, it's possible. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a rabbinic midrash that took it that direction.
Well, I'm just looking at the bracketed him, singular.
Well, yeah,
masculine.
right. Yeah, I would highly recommend ignoring the translation entirely and focus on the Hebrew. The reason they
Right.
stuck a him in there is just to try to make the English read a little easier. But yeah, we have a masculine singular, omed, which is referring back to et asher, I guess. Ki et asher yeshno po imanu. Omed Hayom. Yeah, it's got to be referring to not just the one. Where was it? ולא אתכם את אנוכי קוראת היום את אשר את הזאת. I'm okay, so I disagree with the here with us right here. No is not the usual form for we are. Or there is, yesh means existing. No, new means us. So I disagree with this us right here. Yesh no means he is.
Okay.
So this him or he should have been over here. But rather with the one that he is here with us standing today. So MS over here goes with MS over here. And then over here, the same thing. Enenu, we have a strong dageshin here because it's referring to who, where the hay got lost. This is also 3MS. Enenu, he is not here with us, hayom, today. All right. Can we go to the next verse?
Beautiful.
Thomas, would you like to read?
Yes. I can, yeah. כי אתם ידעתם, wait, ידעתם את אשר ישבנו בארץ מצרים ואת אשר עברנו בקרב הגויים אשר עברתם.
Excellent. Only right here, Aretz is the way that Eretz shows up. It has a definite article, or if it's at the end of a phrase.
It's not definite. Yeah,
Good.
בארץ.
Be'eretz.
Yeah.
Ki atem yedatem. And so this right here is exactly what I had in mind when I was talking earlier about how ayin getting a silent shva. And I was like, no, there are exceptions to this being an ayin 2. This could be an ayin 1 because it's the end of a syllable. Simple as that. But if you expect it to have an audible shva, like, well, no, I can't say it that way either. A reduced vowel, like ya'avor, like this, that tells me it's probably ayin 1. The fact that it has a reduced vowel. Anyway, I digress. Ki atem yedatem et asher yashavnu be'eretz Mitzrayim ואת אשר עברנו בקרב הגויים אשר עברתם. Man, there's not a whole lot to say here. All right, I'm going to go to the next verse, see if we can find something more interesting. Next reader, Christine. Oh, Voldana, you want to read? I see your hand up.
Yes.
Can you unmute?
Yes.
There you are. All right. Please read.
Okay, I'll try. Batir u at she ku az ham vayat gi lu la ham as vayal ban ke sa ve zahav asher imahem.
Very good. Could you read this one more time, please? That what I've circled.
As.
Not quite. So we've got the at the beginning.
Oh,
and
that's a sir. That's a
yeah, it's a tzadi. Very good. It's a tzadi. So how do you read it?
Says.
Oh, sorry. No, it's the last letter that has the TS sound. This is the word.
Oh.
It's like the I don't know how to represent an ayin.
Oh, I said etz.
Good. Etz. In modern Hebrew, we would just say etz, but maybe it should be more like etz, whatever. Doesn't really matter. But I just wanted to make sure that was good. How about this one over here?
Via ben.
Good. Earlier, you made the aleph out to be kind of a Y sound, and now you just did it again. Make it more of a. Well, no. What I mean to say is that the aleph is a glottal stop. Say Can you do that? That's the sound you want for the aleph. Va.
Ben.
No Y sound. Va even.
Ben.
Well, there's an S sound under it. Vowel. Va even. Va even.
Va even.
Perfect. Va even. And then over here, I think it was just another something to do with the tzadi. Shikutsehem.
Right.
You want to repeat that? Shikutsehem.
Shikutsehem.
Excellent. Perfect. Now let me read through one time. Anyone can follow along as I do so. Vatiru et shikutsehem ואת גלגוליהם עץ ואבן, כסף וזהב, אשר עמהם. There are so many things that I feel like you all have already learned. So I to avoid sounding like I'm repeating myself, I stop asking certain questions like, what's the root of imahem?
Ayin mem or ayin mem mem? Also
Ein mem
ayin
mem.
mem.
Ein mem mem.
Yeah.
Right. So when you see that strong dagesh, you think, something's missing. Is this a strong dagesh because something's missing?
Mm,
Right. A strong dagesh tells us that a letter is grammatically doubled, right? Why would it be grammatically doubled? Well, either if there's a letter missing, like in this word,
yeah.
or what's the other option?
It has a
It's a
double.
pattern.
Yeah, it's part of the pattern. Right.
Pattern.
If it's a strong dagesh, it's grammatically doubled either way. But why would it be grammatically doubled? You have two options, either because you have a missing letter that should have been there, but now got not really assimilated, because mem assimilating mem isn't really a thing, but got combined together, or because it's part of the pattern. Here, it's part of the pattern. Can you all think of any other patterns that have a strong dagesh in them besides this one? I'll call it the ki te. Well, I don't want to put a yod. Excuse me. The ki tel or kitul.
Mm.
Okay, this is the kitul pattern. Gilul. Yes, ma'am. Okay, I thought somebody had something to say. Okay, so this has a strong dagesh in the pattern. Can you think of any other patterns that have a strong dagesh?
I don't know now. Yes, no, nicht Miktal.
There's one.
There is one.
There was one on the, what was it, the previous, was it this one or the one before? I think it was the one before. Nope, it was the one before that. Oh, I'm striking out here. Ah, here we go. What about this one?
Yeah.
Die Bär.
Die Bär. Why does it have a strong dagesh? Is that part of its pattern?
No, it's double.
Well, of
Die
course.
Bär.
No, it's not. No, it's PL.
Yeah.
Okay, so PL, does PL have a strong dagesh as part of its pattern?
Yes.
Yes.
So the answer is yes, absolutely. Let me see if I can get back to where.
Not a noun.
Okay. Right. Okay. So, but a noun, okay, fair enough. So there are verbal patterns that have a strong dagesh. Guess what? There are noun patterns that have a strong dagesh. So the PL, I'll just put it in as die Bär,
Yes.
has a strong dagesh in its pattern. But what other noun patterns are there? What about what's the word for a thief, a robber, someone who stole something, a thief?
Enough.
Ganav.
Does it have a strong dagesh?
Ganav. Yeah. Yes. Ganav. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a new.
The noon has a strong dagesh. It's part of the pattern.
Yeah.
Can you think of any other words that have this same pattern? How about yesterday?
Shabbat.
Shabbat is the same pattern as this, or is that a feminine tav?
Feminine tav.
Well, there's a this is how you answer the question. Try to find some other word. Find some other form of the word that doesn't have the tav at the end. How would you say we ceased? We stopped. Remember the root shin bet tav. Well, I just gave you the answer. Means to cease. So how would you say we ceased?
Shabbatenu.
Shavatnu. Shavatnu. We ceased. We also, okay, how about in Genesis 2, where God finishes all his work and he rested from all the work that he had done. Hu shavat mikol melachto. Hu shavat. Hu shavat. Wait, that can't be a feminine tav if he's the one that's doing it. It's part of the root. So Shabbat is the same pattern as Ganav, is the same pattern as Rakav, is the same pattern as what, no, not Amos. What is it? Oh, come on. I just had it on the tip of my tongue. It's not Amos, it's a different one. What's the burden bearer one? Sabal. Sabal. Sabal is also the same pattern. Okay. So these all have strong dagesh as part of their patterns. Okay. So that's something to keep in mind. Strong dagesh is either because of a missing letter or because it's part of the pattern. Okay. Questions?
Okay, so going back to Galal, did the Vav assimilate into the kibbutz?
Well, that's the thing is that originally there was no Vav. There was an U sound, but the Vav didn't come until after the Babylonian exile when Mater Lectionis letters were inserted into the middle of a word. In modern Hebrew, I would spell this as Gilul, like this. But if you go back before the Babylonian exile, sorry, there weren't any Vavs or Yods in the middle of a word. So that's what's happening here. It's part of the pattern, but there's no like consonantal Vav required in this word. It's rather the Vav represents the U sound that came before Mater Lectionis letters.
Is there a verb in that? Not is it
Yes, there is.
Galal or Galal? Is that
Galal, very good. Galal. What is the verb galal?
Idle.
To
roll?
to
To roll. To roll
to roll
something.
up.
And
Yeah,
in fact,
to
this
roll,
is the root from which we get galgal, which is a wheel.
Yes, Gaga.
That has
Yes.
something to do with idols then, like those prayer wheels that are spoken of in scripture? Like is that
I want to know what you're talking about. A prayer wheel spoken of in
well,
scripture.
there's something, yeah, I think it's in the New Testament, and in fact I'm sure it is, where they talk about the repetitive things, and maybe it's
Circle.
extra biblical history or something.
I'm relatively familiar with my Bible, and I can't think of what you're talking about. So if you happen to find a source for that, let me know.
Okay.
The way that the lexicon combines the verb roll with the word idols is because the idols were made out of a block of wood, a rolling piece of log. Don't know if that's a perfect fit, but that's what they say in the lexicon. So I'm gonna have to call it adequate.
Okay.
Let's see, we have about 10 more minutes. Who wants to read this gargantuan verse?
I would like to try.
You would like to try?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Cheryl.
Pen yesh bechem ish o isha או משפחה או שבט אשר לבבו פונה היום מעם אדוני אלוהינו ללכת לעבוד את אלוהי הגויים ההם פן יש בכם שורש פורה ראש לענה לענה ולענה לענה, wormwood.
Vela'ana. Yeah, not a common word in the Bible, so
I found it
whenever-
in Revelation recently.
Yeah, it's in Revelation. And when you run into as you all are reading through the Hebrew Bible, it's normal, it's common to run into a word you're not familiar with and slow down. We do the same thing in English. I don't know about you, but when I'm reading the label on something from the grocery store, I'm like trying to pronounce a word this long. I slow down. We all do. That's the point. So when you run into a word you're not familiar with, it's okay. Take your time, spell it out or sound it out. Pen yesh bachem ish o isha, o mishpacha o shevet, asher levavo pone, excuse me, pone, hayom me'im Adonai Eloheinu, ללכת לעבוד את אלוהי הגויים ההם, פן יש בכם שורש פורה ראש ולענה. Rosh. What does Rosh mean?
Head.
Head.
Bitter. Sour, bitter.
Interesting. How does
Why?
Rosh mean gal or bitter?
Why?
Why? Exactly. Do we have another
Word.
do we have another Sheen 1, Sheen 2 thing going on here? We get multiple. I don't know the answer to this. Like I said, this right here is not used often enough in the Bible for me to have any intelligible opinion on it. So I'd have to look it up. How would we go about answering a question like that? It's a matter of tools. How would you go about answering the question? Wait, why is Rosh? Why does it also mean Gal? Where would you turn?
The content. You know, the
Context?
yes. Yeah, the vala'ana is a poison, and it can also be a curse.
Oy,
And
oy,
so
oy.
it could be an adjective to that,
I agree with
poison.
excuse me. Yeah, I agree with you. Because we have that word coming afterward, which has to do with, wormwood or whatever. Well, I guess the word head really doesn't fit into the context. So what, do we go to an etymological dictionary possibly? I'm looking here in Klein's Roche, number one meaning. So that means if there's a number one next to it, I should probably show you all, right? Just a moment. Share screen. Second camera. No, not that one. Not that one either. That one. Okay, I know that's really small font. This is Klein's Comprehensive Etymological Dictionary of the Hebrew Language for Readers of English, in which we find the word. Is that clear or not? It doesn't look clear. Let me click on this and see if it autofocuses.
Yes.
Oh, that's much better. Okay, so now where's my pen? Here it is. Okay, the word Rosh right here has a little number one next to it. What does that tell you?
That there's more than one.
There's going to be a number two. Exactly. So we already know this word. Masculine noun means head, chief, leader, top, summit, blah, 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 blah. And it's related to these other words as in Phoenician, Biblical, Aramaic, and scooch, scooch. I hope you're not getting seasick. There we go. And it continues. There's Jewish, Aramaic, Syriac, Egyptian, Arabic, Ugaritic, Arabic, Ethiopic, Akkadian, blah, 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 blah. So basically every Semitic language in the world has, or in the ancient Near East, has this root Rosh. Arabic, blah, 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 blah. Okay, these are derivatives, other words that are related to the word Rosh, but none of that has to do with venom. Oh, there it is. Rosh number two, masculine noun, also spelled with a vav. Interesting. I want to know why. Is venom, and it is of unknown etymology. Oh, well, that's just fantastic. That's a dead end road.
Not really.
Who is producing this venom?
Who is okay? So what I want to know is where else does this occur in the Bible so we can get better context? Where does it show up as Resh Vav Shin? How do we answer that question?
Ah,
Good question.
Well, what Bible software are you using? If you have good Bible software, you'll be able to answer that question quick, fast, and in a hurry. So we're in Deuteronomy 29. Does anybody know what verse it's in? 29?
18.
8. That was way off. 18. Oh, you're saying 29:18?
Yeah, sir.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so here's the word Rosh. And if you have good Bible software, you should be able to let's see, hang on. I have Strong's turned off, don't I?
Yeah, it's
There we go.
8219 strong.
There you go. 72. I've got 7219. So if I click on that, that'll take me over to my dictionaries. Of course, we don't want that dictionary right there. We want a better dictionary. This is a combined dictionary, so I usually use it. Okay, gall, venom, bitter, poison, so on and so forth, bad things.
Yeah.
Says apparently the same as 7218. Uh-oh. Apparently the same as. In what universe does head have anything to do with venom? Well, I guess that's the place where venom is produced. All right. It says some sort of
Conspicuous head from its conspicuous
head.
head.
So I guess like a poisonous serpent has a conspicuous head.
No,
Here
I
are
think you're talking about the plant.
Mm-hmm.
It has a head-like thing on the plant.
Has anyone ever seen like a poppy plant? Does it have a conspicuous head?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Here they're also telling us that, even of serpents, it shows up 12 times in the King Jimmy, so we could go through and look at all of them if we wanted to. I happen to have another resource that shows me how this word is spelled in the entire Bible, and there's the one time it shows up with a vav. That really doesn't give us a whole lot of information, does it? If it's showing up aleph, 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 and just one time with a vav, it means somebody misspelled it. It doesn't mean that vav is the original root. I think their opinion is correct. It's a conspicuous looking head of either a plant or like a viper that has that long, conspicuous, wide, conspicuous head. All right. Well, how about that? So this has been a question of, if I have a question, what tools do I have to help me answer those questions? Does anybody else have an outstanding question about tools that you can use, references that you can use? What tools do you all use when you run into a question? You just go to your instructor and have him solve it for you, or her. Yeah, well, as an instructor, my job isn't just to answer your questions, but to teach you how to answer your own questions. So that's what I'm trying to do here with the end of this lesson. Find yourself some good Bible software that you can do searches with. The one that I just used is called The Word. It has a very powerful search capability, and it's modular, so you can download whatever modules you want and don't download the ones you don't want. And I've already shown you my Klein's, which has a lot of etymological information in it. Are there any other dictionaries that you all use? I mean, BDB, Brown Driver Briggs is a nice cheap option. It's okay. There are some places where it isn't right, but that's okay. You can get a pretty good feel for the Hebrew language using just a BDB. If you have tons of money, you can get a Halot, thousands of dollars for the physical copy. What else do you all use?
Two-letter.
Two-letter root
letters.
lookup, which is basically going to have, some. What is they have? They have not
Gesenius,
I
they have.
almost said Ginsburg. Gesenius and BDB, isn't it?
I think it's a different one.
It's a different one. Okay. Is it Jastro? No, not Jastro. Okay.
I think it is. I think it is just. Yeah.
Here's two-letter lookup. It allows you to type in only two letters to try to find the three-letter root. So we could type in like this, and it would show you everything that has an aleph and a chet, and then you can go through and find the one that you're looking for. That's the one I was looking for right there. Ahaz.
Ahaz.
So if I click on that, it gives me the verb, it gives me the Strong's number, and then it gives me some information right here. This looks an awful lot like BDB, like it was pulled from the BDB. And then you have other dictionaries that you can look at. Gesenius has a dictionary, so does Jastrow. Jastrow's, I thought, has a lot of Aramaic in it too, doesn't it?
I don't know.
Mhm. Yes, it does.
Is this Jastrow's right here? Yeah. Here's the physical copy of Jastrow. It says Dictionary of the Targumim, which are Aramaic, of the Talmud Bavli, which is Aramaic, and the Yerushalmi, which is Aramaic, and the Midrashic literature. Oh, that one's got some Hebrew in it. So it's both Hebrew and Aramaic in one book. He includes a lot of examples. So if we go into Jastrow, let's see what they have here. Oh, yeah, there it is. All right, where is a huz? How can I? Oh, here it is. Large. Had. Hav. Where are you? Oh, here it is. A huz. See if I can scooch. Can I scooch that over a little bit? Indubitably. There we go. All right. What can we gain from this? Ahaz is the entry. BH. I don't know what that means. It's probably biblical Hebrew. It says second or secondary root of Het Zayin Vav. No kidding. What is the root Het Zayin Vav? Hazah. To see? I don't know. To press, seize, hold, keep, befall. And then it gives you some examples like Sanhedrin 27b. What is that a reference to? Like the Sanhedrin back in the temple days?
Talmud.
Right. So this is referring to the Talmud. When it has 27b, it's folio, it's the page 27, second side. When you open up a Talmud, every open page is two sides, A or B. So that's what the B is for, 27b. And here it gives it to you in the Hebrew. Here's another reference. What about this? Y pes. What is that? All right, this is also the Talmud, but it's the Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud. Did you know there are two Talmuds? There's the Babylonian Talmud, which is the more, if there are ever any differences of opinion between the two Talmuds, Babylonian Talmud is the one you go with because their scholars were more prestigious or something. But this is the Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, Pesachim, the section on Pesach and other holidays. All right, so going forward, is there anything else we can learn from this? Well, what's nif?
Nifal.
So they're splitting up the entry into the binyanim. It appears there's nifal, there's hefil. Right. And if we wanted to, we could go to the next page. Okay. Any questions about Jastrow or dictionaries or lexicons in general?
I found something very interesting this week.
What did you find?
There's a Bible software called Pure Bible Search. And what it does, it gives you data analytics of every word in English and Hebrew, entire Bible. And I had that software, and John poses a riddle in the book of Revelation regarding the number, which is also in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament, he poses a riddle for those who have understanding, calculate the number of 666, 600 plus 60 plus 6. So I put I went into Pure Bible Search. I put in star Jesus star, and on the 666th entry of the entire Bible, one-time entry in Acts 13:8, 6 through 8, 6 and 8, one name appears, and it's the name of the Antichrist.
How about that? What a coincidence.
And it occurs only one time on the 666th entry, and it is Bar Jesus.
Isn't the number really 600 and
Well, there,
Six.
okay, so there is a
Zero.
variant, exactly. There is a textual variant with the number. Earlier manuscripts have 666. No, excuse me. Later manuscripts have the 666, and there is one or two, is it one or two manuscripts that are very early that have 616. And the explanation there given by some prestigious scholars is that Nero was later Neron. So the earlier calculation would be 616 and the later calculation would be 666 because the difference of that extra noon is the number 50 in gematria. By the way, I talked a bit about how Klein's dictionary is awesome, but it's kind of super expensive in the physical copy. It's now available on Safaria now for a couple of years. So you can look up anything on Safaria and get the etymological information. Oh, I just got an idea. Remember we were talking about Gaza earlier? Let's try putting in Gaza and see if it shows us something that's helpful. Gaza. Can I get Gaza? What? Why isn't it here?
It is. Oh, Isa.
Where?
Well, Isa is a goat.
Goat.
It's from Ez or Ezim, but is the word Gaza not in here?
Does it end in ein? No.
I'm you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think Klein's includes proper nouns, people's names, countries' names.
Goat, yeah.
I don't think it's there. Here, let me type in English. Does it? No, you can't. Yeah, invalid. It has to be a Hebrew word. Okay, well, that's not a problem. Let me think of a different one. Oh, how about oh, I know what it is. No. Ana. Okay, what is ana? What's the verb ana?
To respond
Yeah.
or to ask.
Yeah, to answer, respond. But what is ana in the PL?
No.
Ana in the PL, exactly.
Ina.
I'm not sure why it's not working. Let me try again.
To report.
This is
No.
seems like there's a bug here. I wonder if I'm supposed to use the noon. Oh no. Nah. It's not in there. Am I supposed to include a yod? What am I doing wrong here? Nah.
No.
Tell you what, I'm just going to click on this and then try to fix it up in the top. Can I do that? No, I can't. All right, so obviously having the physical copy is way easier to use. Look, I tried to type in Ainun Hey, and it didn't want to come here. It only types in the words. It only allows you to go to words that have the vowel pointings. How frustrating is that? Come on, Safaria, fix it. Anyway, so Ana to answer, reply, respond. And down here, no, was off. Yeah, nope, that one didn't do it. Here it is. Okay, so look at this. Okay, here we go. So this is the difference I wanted to show you. So there are three roots or three definitions. There's Ainun Hey, Ainun Hey, Ainun Hey. But look at the first one in, for example, do we have an Arabic? Yeah. Okay. So here in Arabic, see that little quote in front of the letter A, the single quote? That represents the letter Ayin 1. Now, look at the Arabic for this Ain Nun Hey. GH. That's Ain 2. Okay.
Gaza.
So you can use, like it is in Gaza, exactly. So you can use the etymological dictionary and find cognates in another Semitic language to figure out if it's Ein 1, Ein 2, or Het 1, Het 2, or Zain 1, Zain 2, Sheen 1, 2, or 3. There are tons of these that you can, if you learn how to use them. Oh, let's go. Let's check out the Asher from earlier. Can we use that one? Asher.
Share.
Don't have Hebrew typing capabilities on your keyboard. You can either type it from here or browse it from down here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's maybe okay. Now, how do I make it go away? Go away. Here we go. Asher. Aha. See this right here in the Ugaritic, it has an A with a thing under it that represents Aleph, a T with a line under it. What's that?
Ata.
That's a
Yeah,
TH sound, th. So that tells you we're looking at a different sheen than sheen 1. Arabic also has TH.
Yes.
So you can look at conservative languages like Ugaritic and Arabic to find the difference between the Proto-Semitic letters that no longer show up in Hebrew, but do show up in other languages.
Where does the Ugaritic fit into the larger scheme of things?
Ugarit was a city in, is it Syria or Lebanon? I guess it's Lebanon. I don't know. It's north of Israel on the Mediterranean coast, and its history ended around about 2000 BC or BCE, roughly. Okay, so it was there for several hundred years. In the 1900s, someone discovered it, found a whole library of tax receipts and other boring inscription or clay tablets, but there were also some cult poems among all of the remains. And so Ugaritic is the language of that city. It is very similar to Hebrew, but used a different it used different glyphs for its alphabet. It looks more like chicken scratch. It looks more like cuneiform, but it was still alphabetic. And it had more than the 22 letters of Hebrew, or 23 if you include Sin Shin. It had 29 letters.
It sounds like Phoenician Canaanite.
Right, but the Phoenician didn't have Phoenician used the same alphabet as the Hebrews did, so you don't have the 29 glyphs that Ugarit and later Arabic had. So they're not; those two are considered conservative Semitic languages. Right. And in fact, there's a lot you can learn from the Hebrew Tanakh from Ugaritic because there was so much borrowing that happens in the ancient Near East. Anyway, so now you have another resource that you all can use. Any closing comments or questions?
Great class.
Excellent. I'm glad you enjoyed it. If anyone would like to support Hungry for Hebrew, there's the option to do so here. I look forward to seeing you all. Wait, not next week. Wait, next week I'm going to be out of town. No, is it? When is Thanksgiving?
Yes, it's next week. I've already told
Next.
somebody else. You
Is
were
it
having
the-
class today. You are not having class next week. Thanksgiving
Hang
is
on.
Thursday.
It's
No.
this Thursday, or is it next
No,
Thursday?
Thanksgiving,
Next
Thanksgiving is
After
Thursday
the
week.
following
Thursday
Thursday.
week.
Okay, so that
The
means I
28th.
will be here next week, and I will not be here on the 1st of December because I'm going to be at family visiting.
Right.
Yeah. So I will see you all next week. Looking forward to it. Lehitraot, v'shalom.
Thank you.
Yitrot shalom.
Thank you.
Oops. I got it. All right.
Yitrot lekulam.
Bye bye.